Hello and welcome to another episode of the CAGED Canary podcast. I'm your host, Mahdi Gilbert, Before Magic, and today I want to talk about stopping. What does that mean, stopping? It means when you stop doing magic, when you stop a performance, when the performance ends, when you decide to end, knowing when to stop is very important. It's a big mistake that we're not really taught how to stop or when to stop. And I want to address it because it is a huge concern of mine. Uh, and that concern is performing for too long or performing for not long enough. And it really is an art to know when to stop. So many times it's happened to me, and I've seen other people uh, do this as well, where they just perform for too long. So they'll do one effect and they'll get a great reaction. Then they'll do they'll do a second effect, still going good. Then third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh effect, eighth effect. The audience is losing interest, and then by the ninth effect, they're already gone. And there's many reasons for this. It really depends on where you are, where the audience is, what the mood is, and you kind of have to read this in the moment. And I'm not talking about a formal show here. Formal show is prearranged. You know how long the show is going to be. You have a beginning, middle, and an ending. In a formal show, you can't just do a few minutes and then stop. I mean, you could, but the audience would not be happy about it. Although it is funny, I was reading the book by Nate Staniforth. Nate Staniforth, I think his name is. He wrote a book on magic and his experiences on being a magician. And one of the things he writes is really funny. He's doing a college show, and he just totally in the middle of the show, I think not even an hour in, he totally blanked out, and he forgot where he was in the show. He forgot what his line was. He forgot what he was doing. So if I remember correctly, he just apologized to the audience and then said, "I have to go," and then left. And that's how the show ended. That's never happened to me, but I can't even imagine how that happens. Ideally, that's not how you want to end a show. So what does it mean to end and knowing when to stop? So there's a concept in magic, a line that's frequently said and heard, but never really listened to properly. And that line is always leave them wanting more. Always leave them wanting more. Always leave them wanting more. Okay? And this is something that's so important. People forget it. People don't apply it. People don't even think about it. And what does that mean? It means what it is. Leave the audience wanting more. Don't give them enough. And it's not because you don't want them to be fulfilled. It's that magic is so sensitive, you can very easily overdo it. It's sort of like how I would describe it is, I would make a metaphor. If I was to make a metaphor, it's like if somebody is really hungry and they're eating an amazing dish, and then they eat too much and they're a little full and they don't want to eat that. You can eat too much, and there's different levels of how much you can eat. But depending on how much you overeat, you'll slowly bring that experience down. Let's say you eat what is a normal portion for you, you'll be satisfied. And then, let's say if you eat a little bit more, you'll be like, oh, I'm full. And then it's maybe it won't bring that experience down, but maybe those last few bites will not be as good as, how the meal started out. And then if you really overeat, if you really stuff yourself, as you go on, the experience of eating is not going to be enjoyable anymore. It's actually going to become like a miniature torture session where you start not to feel good, the food doesn't taste that good in your mouth anymore. And anybody who's ever overeaten can tell you it's just a horrible feeling to really, really overeat. You just like, you're disgusted in yourself, you're disgusted with the food. It just ruins the whole experience. It just brings the experience down. Well, the experience, and then you look back at it and you're like, oh man, I shouldn't have eaten so much. I should have just eaten like, a certain amount would have been enough. But then I overdid it. I don't feel good, and you do think about that experience, and that's sort of how magic is. And one of the biggest problems is you can very easily, people are very sensitive to magic. You can very easily overdo it. So, and I see this all the time, where people start out strong, and then like they just keep going past. They climax. Okay, let's say let's pretend there's a chart. Okay, and there's different levels through your performance, and then you climax. Okay, you get as high as you can get on that chart in terms of emotional engagement, mental engagement, reaction, and like, I don't know. I didn't scientifically break this down, so I don't know. I don't know all the qualifiers. What is being charted? But the climax, which is like the spectator's experience, that's what we're measuring on the chart, by the way. When it reaches that peak, when it climaxes, you cannot go any higher. That's what a peak means. It means the highest it can, be. So you reach that peak, and that is when you need to bring it down. You need to stop. Okay? That's it. I mean, it's extremely simple. As soon as you reach that point, you need to slow down or immediately stop. It is the hardest thing in the world to do when you're in the moment. And I've been guilty of this mistake. I've seen very good magicians make the same mistake. I've been with very good magicians where you see them performing a set, and the set will last, 20 minutes, and it's like very strong, and then you realize that, like, you because when you're watching, you're not in the moment. You're like, okay, this is the peak, and then they're like, let me go a little bit further. Maybe they have something set up so that maybe they have another 2 tricks or 3 tricks set up, and they want to get through it. They just want to get through it. And then it no longer becomes about the audience. It becomes about themselves. They're the ones who want to finish the set. Maybe they have like a full deck, what do you call it? A full deck restoration at the end where they reveal that like the whole deck is a new deck order, and they have something like that set up for the end. But then it's like, and they want to, it's like they've been preparing, they've had this, they've been working on setting this up. They're 3 tricks ahead, and they have this amazing reveal set up, and they're not able to let go. And that's what happens, because they're more attached to finishing the set than giving the user the optimal experience, the spectator the best experience that they can. So they go a little bit further, and I've seen it many times where magicians will go too far. They'll finish what they intended on finishing when they started out, but then they're getting to the end, but the audience isn't getting to the end with them. Like, physically they're there, they're looking and stuff, but that the engagement is diminished, and the impact is diminished. And it's just something we need to be aware about, because like, you never want to bore the audience. You never want to be showing the audience magic, and it's like, okay, we've had enough. One more, and you're asking them one more, and they're like, no, it's okay, we've seen enough. Like, you don't want to get to that point. But many magicians do get to that point, And they get to that point because they don't know when to stop. And it's something we all have to learn. And it was told to me, it was explained to me that you have to stop as soon as you get that reaction. As soon as you know that the audience has experienced magic, like really powerful, strong magic, you have to stop. It's done. Like, it's mission accomplished. You've done your job as a magician. It doesn't matter if you can do, 5 more tricks. It doesn't matter if you're set up to do another trick or another 2 tricks and you have this reveal at the end. It doesn't matter. You just stop. Just stop it. And leave the audience on that high. Leave them at that high. That's something we're not really taught as magicians, to leave the audience alone. Once you bring the audience to that place where they have felt magic, it's okay to leave them there. You don't need to distract them and be like, okay, we got to continue the ride. We got a few more effects to get through, and then to drag them forcefully out of that place. It's okay, and much better for you and for them, to leave them in that place. Just leave them in that place. Get to that magic moment, that peak, that climax, and just leave them there. Let them just relax. Let them enjoy it. Don't drag it on. Just let them have a breather, relax, and you will. It will help you in so many ways. And one of the reasons it will help you, and just practical reasons, is that person will want to see more magic, and you really do want to leave them wanting more. You want them to want more. You want to stop just short. You just want them to be like, oh, come on, one more time, please, one more, and you're like, it's over. You want to leave them with that desire, like, okay. You want to leave them. It's not that you're leaving them unsatisfied, right? You're bringing them to that climax. You're bringing them to that peak experience. But then it's like you're deciding that, okay, it's over. You're not getting to them to a place where the engagement goes down. I'll give you another metaphor. Think about a TV series, okay? And TV series are usually a few seasons if they're successful. And usually the showrunners, the people who create the show and who are running the show, have a plan for the show. Whether that's 3 seasons, 4 seasons, they have a story that they want to get through. And they get to the end of the story, okay? The story's told. The story's complete. But the fan's been with them for a few years. The fan's been watching the show for a few years. They're really engaged. They've been watching. Maybe they've been tuning in once a week. And they don't want that show to end. The story's over, but they don't want that show to end. And it's popular enough. So then what happens sometimes is, because of the pressure of the studios and, the networks and stuff, they see that there's still money in it, so they convince the actors, they convince everyone, okay, let's keep it going, one more season, a few more episodes, and then they, all right, and they come up with a story, and they got a few more episodes, but because that original fully planned out story was finished, it's not as good. It's not, the quality starts to go down. The actors are, you can't continue everything forever. And then you have some shows. I'll give you an example. There's a very popular TV show called Supernatural. It's on the CW. It's actually a fairly good show. I've been watching it since the beginning, which is crazy. It's been 15 years, something crazy like that. And in that show, they originally only planned 5 seasons. So, at the end of the 5th season, the show was over. It's like the story was done. The story they wanted to, be told was done in 5 seasons. What happened was it was so successful. The network, just everyone wanted to keep it going. So they kept it going, and they've been going for another 10 years. So like the original plan was 5 years, and they're now like I think they're at 15 years. I think they're like 300, or they're going to be nearing like 350 episodes, which is a lot. And then you see it. The show suffers because of it. There's some episodes, there's obviously cool new story arcs and things that pop up, but it's like a roller coaster. It's not all up all the time. There's some lows. you know, there's some there's some moments that bring the experience down, and then you always wonder, like, what if the story just had ended there? But magic is like one of this, like, it's just and you see this in movies too. Like, there'll be a really great movie, and then I'll have like a sequel that's not so good, or something like that. And that's like what happens in magic, where you plan something out, and but because in magic you are the one directing the experience in real time. You have to be aware of your audience and where they are inside their head and inside their body, and like what it is they are experiencing. And then you want to optimize your you want to make adjustments to your performance to give them the best experience possible. And how do you do that? What is the simplest way to do that? Well, other than talking to them like a normal human being, is you stop when it's time to stop. This is going to do wonders for your magic. It is the hardest thing to do. I make, even though I'm saying this, I do make the mistake all the time, and it is only something that you learn from making the mistake. It really is. Like, once you're aware that you can stop early, like, let's say somebody wants to see, and sometimes you don't even need to finish the trick. Like, there are multiple effects that I do that have many phases, that have like 2, 3, 4, even 5 phases. Okay, 5 phases of one trick. And that's one of the things I learned as well. You don't even need to finish the effect. If you're doing the effect and you reach that climax at like phase number 1, phase number 2, phase number 3, and you have another phase, you don't need to do it. You do not have to complete the effect. Even though there's another phase, and there's another phase, you don't have to do it. There are circumstances, and you'll be able to read this in the moment. And when you understand that you can just stop, and you think about it, you'll realize that sometimes it is better to stop before you even finish the whole trick. I'll give you an example. Ambitious card, right? My ambitious card changes with the audience. I have different phases. I can go, I think the most I do is 5 phases. 5 phases, which is a lot. But I very rarely make it to the full 5 phases. And it's okay. Like, and that's what's really cool when you are doing magic. When you do understand this, it doesn't mean that, like, you not only look at the whole performance, you look at the effects, as being modular, in that you can shorten an effect. Like, let's say my plan is to do the ambitious card routine and then perform a triumph, okay? And I get a really strong reaction. Like, I just know that I can't top it with the ambitious card past the 3rd phase, okay? I've gone through 3 phases. I know. It's done. Boom. It's okay. I don't need to do those 2 other phases. I can literally just stop and then go to the triumph. I can either stop the performance, which may be appropriate, or I can stop and go to the triumph, which may be appropriate. Okay, so that's how you need to think. That really isn't how you need to think. And then there are other moments where you want to make things longer. If you can make that repetition stronger, you can definitely do something for longer. Um, you really need to be sensitive, and you really need to be picking up on what the spectators are feeling and thinking. Now, I'm talking about close-up magic, and like intimate magic that you're not doing on a grand scale, like on stage. Uh, I'm really talking about close-up. Uh, if you start doing this, your magic is going to change. I don't know how to say it other than that. Knowing when to stop is going to let the audience want more. People are going to come to you and want to see more magic, and it's okay to deny them. People have this thing of like, oh, I don't know how to perform magic for people. I don't know how to approach people. They have anxiety. If you start doing this, people will be approaching you because they'll be like, you do one thing for them, and they lose their mind, and you tell them, yeah, that's all I can do for now. Believe me, those people will find you, and they will ask you to do magic, and when they do, you can be prepared to do something amazing. So this is going to help you in a lot of ways. This is going to make the magic better. But it really is about getting the audience to a place where they are experiencing the magic, and then not pulling them out of that, not bringing them down from that experience. You sort of want to lead them into that experience and then leave them there. You just want to leave them there. Is it possible to bring them down if you're doing like more of a formal show? Usually they recommend so many different things. You sort of have to use your own judgment and really make decisions for yourself. But sometimes it is appropriate after a really strong climax to bring somebody down and do, a little thing. But doesn't mean that it needs to be done all at once. Like, let's say, for instance, you're sitting at a bar, and I'll use Mellini as an example because Mellini was like a master of this. He could sit at a bar and be drinking and talking to people, and they would actually want to talk to him. And then, every 20 minutes, every 30 minutes, whenever it was appropriate, he would do a magic effect. And it would just be like a random magic effect. Not random. I mean, it was very organized and orchestrated by him. He was a genius. But it just seemed like he was doing magic, like you were hanging out with the guy, and then he was doing magic. It never felt forced. It never felt like he was like, okay, now I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this trick, and then I'm going to do this trick. No. Like, he didn't oversaturate you with magic. You don't want to oversaturate people with magic. And when you are in situations where you are with the same group of people for an extended period of time, for example, at a bar or, something like that, or over dinner, you're at an event, you're spending a weekend with people, it may be better to really stretch out the magic and do an effect here, then wait, 3 hours, 4 hours, and do another effect there, wait, and then, it's okay to leave a gap in between the magic rather than, do everything that you can do, and then, people are bored and you've run out of material. That's unfortunately how magicians usually do it. One other thing that I do want to mention, which I have seen, I'll probably do another podcast on this because it's so annoying to me. I've been out with magicians, and people always see us messing around with cards, shuffling and stuff, and they'll ask, "Oh, are you guys playing a game? Are you guys playing poker? What are you doing?" "Oh, no, we're magicians." "Oh, cool. Can I see a magic trick?" And then one magician will show them a magic trick, and then they'll be really excited. And then another magician will show them a magic trick. They'll be like, "Oh, that's wow, that's amazing." And then another magician will show them a magic trick, and then they'll become oversaturated with magic. Like people, like they will literally watch magician after magician. Like there will be 10 magicians showing the magic one after another, and then like by the end, the people are like sick of it, even though it's amazing. Like when you oversaturate people with magic, no matter how amazing it would seem, if it was isolated, when it's all jumbled together, it just becomes like a hellish experience because, and this is for a lot of reasons, really. Um, I think one of them is focus and attention. Scandio had a rule, and it was based on this psychological principle. I forget exactly where it's from, but it's in Ascanio, the structural conception of magic. It's the Ascanio books, volume 1. And he was talking about how the audience, people in general can only focus on stuff, really focus on something for 7 minutes on average. And anything that goes longer than that is too long, and you sort of need to give people a break in attention. Like, so no single effect. You can make a show longer than 7 minutes, obviously, but no single effect should take longer than 7 minutes. And that's sort of like the problem with uh, the way a lot of people perform magic is that the audience never gets any psychological breaks. They never get to rest. Their mind never gets to rest. Their eyes never get to rest. And it is psychologically draining for them to focus on a performance for that long. Um, if you've ever had to do an interview with somebody or, you know, do a presentation or listen to a presentation and it just goes on too long and you can't focus, like you're hearing the words, you're seeing the person talk, but you just like, it's literally going in one ear and then coming out the other because like your brain is just like you've ran out of stamina. You can't focus anymore. That's also another factor, and I mean that's not something that you can measure, but that's why you don't even want to get to the point where you are measuring the stamina of your audience's focus. I think that's like a horrible place to be, where you're like, okay, they can't focus anymore. I gotta stop. Ideally, you want to stop at the peak of your performance. When as soon as that is, it doesn't matter if you were planning to do 15 minutes and you only get 3 minutes finished. It's okay. It's okay to finish at 3 minutes. The same thing if you were planning to do 15 minutes and you only get 12 minutes. Okay, it's okay to stop. It's okay to stop if you get 14 minutes out of 15 minutes. If you just, you know what? You don't need to do that ending. It doesn't matter if you made it 14 minutes in and you have that final thing ready. If you don't feel that it's going to add in that moment, you have to have the sensitivity to read the audience, and you have to be able to discern whether it's going to add anything or not, because that's how everything is. It either adds or it subtracts. So if you're not adding to the performance, if you're not adding to the magic, you're taking away from it. And that's something that you always need to keep in mind. Anything is either becoming more powerful or less powerful. Is becoming stronger or is becoming weaker. And when you start applying this line of thinking to your magic, it is very hard at first because you have to force yourself to stop, and you will make mistakes. I want to say I've been stopping for 5 years, maybe. I've been stopping for about 5 years. I mean, prematurely stopping. What I mean by prematurely is stopping before I had originally intended to stop. Stopping based on the audience. I've been doing that for about 5 years, ever since I really heard about it and I took it to heart and I understood it. So 5 years I've been doing this. I still make mistakes. After the performance, I'll look at a performance and I'll be like, yeah, just went a little bit too long here. I should have stopped early. Because that's like one of the also depressing things for magicians. It's one of the reasons why you need sensitivity. You always want to leave them with that great experience. It's like it's the worst feeling in the world to give somebody a great experience and then go too long and they're like bored, or they just lose interest, or they lose focus. And it's a mistake. It does happen. It's something that you learn with experience. I've definitely made it. I continue to make it. I don't make it as badly. Like some of the people who I see performing, I just have to imagine that they have no self-awareness. Like that's the only explanation. They have no sensitivity, no self-awareness, and the audience is clearly not interested, but they force the audience to watch like another 20 minutes of their magic. When the audience is like done, they're ready to go home. And people force them through that. So I'm like, it's either they're sadistic and they really want to make the audience suffer, or they have no awareness, and they just don't know any better. And that's why I want to share it, because there was a time where I didn't know any better. But I still, even though nobody told me that concept earlier on when I was learning magic, later on people, somebody told me about it and I understood it and I took it to heart. But before that, even though I never was told it, I intuitively sensed it, but I didn't follow my gut feeling. Like I didn't always stop. I knew that there was something wrong, because when you perform and you have a little bit of sensitivity to understand what's going on with your audience, you understand that there's some performances that are better than others and some that are weaker. And then you look at it and you're like, what can account for the differences in these performances? I'm saying the same words, I'm doing the same things. What's going on? And what's going on is just everything that's going on inside of your audience members. And once you understand that and you allow yourself the ability to stop, it's just going to open up a whole new worlds to you and to your magic. As I said, you're going to make mistakes, but this is part of the process of becoming a better magician. It's realizing faults, and it's realizing faults even though nobody else realizes them. It's being extremely sensitive to what you're doing and how you can improve, and what mistakes that you're making that nobody else can perceive. You have to analyze yourself and criticize yourself with a level of sensitivity and almost ruthlessness that people cannot even perceive. And all of that is going to make you much better. But definitely learn when to stop. Don't be afraid to stop, and just stop, okay? when you get to the point where you can't go any further, just stop. Stop. Okay? So simple. You just make the decision and you stop. The audience won't know. They'll think it's the end. It doesn't matter. You just stop. It's going to make you a better magician. Just stop.